Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar with ChaosSearch. Today is a little bit different. We typically just provide a log analysis demonstration. Today, though, we're going to get a little bit more focused on one particular type of logs, and that's Cloudflare log analysis of their CDN logs. So thank you very much for joining. Appreciate you taking your time, and hopefully this breaks up your day from the work at home sessions that we're all experiencing now. Before we get into the demo, and my name is Tom O'Connell, I lead the sales and business development efforts here at ChaosSearch. With me is Kevin Davis. Kevin is our Senior Director of Solutions Architects, and he'll be the person actually providing the Cloudflare demonstration. I just want to spend a couple of slides and no more than 3 or 4 minutes to give you a little bit of a background or an overview of ChaosSearch. So bear with me, I've got a handful of slides and then we'll get right into the demonstration. ChaosSearch is a Boston-based technology company. We focus on a Saas solution around search and analytics. Right now, we're supporting the AWS cloud, but we've got plans in the future to port our technology to both GCP and probably later in the year or early 2021, we'll be supporting Azure. So it'll be a multi-cloud offering for our customers that support those different cloud vendors. I think what you're going to see today is some very unique and innovative technology. It's so unique and innovative that we've actually applied for 3 patents, and we're very close to having those patents being filled by the trademark office. So this slide actually represents a lot of the value and the benefits that we provide our customers. We see customers on a daily basis coming to us because they're running an elk stack at scale, and once you run an elk stack at scale, it becomes cost prohibitive to maintain that scale, and it becomes difficult for the engineering team to actually keep the cluster up and running. One of the things that we provide is the fact that you can very easily predict the cost of log analytics with ChaosSearch because we've got a very simple business model, and the fact that we're delivered as a SaaS solution means that you don't have to provision and manage any kind of hardware infrastructure. We do all of that for you. So we see customers coming to us because they're wrestling with managing an elk stack. They're trying to reduce their cost of log analysis solutions, especially at scale, and they're looking for a vendor to provide a managed service, which is what we currently do. So most of our customers are falling anywhere between 1 terabyte to 10 terabytes. Really seems to be the sweet spot of when people or customers find issues around managing that elk stack, and they come to us to see if we can alleviate some of those problems. And I think today during the demonstration, you'll see the value that we provide those customers. I think it's important to understand the fundamental principles that ChaosSearch provides our customers. We see object storage, or S3 in this case, as being home base for all data, which means you shouldn't need to move data from one environment to another. You should be able to get the data into object storage and make that searchable. We really don't believe in what a lot of vendors are out there doing in terms of moving data and doing ETL processes outside of storage before you can actually search and analyze that data. Our philosophy is that all data should be accessible, regardless of the type of data. It should reside in S3 and make that searchable for the various departments within an organization. One of the ways we've actually done that is we've separated compute and storage. So when we deploy our solution, we deploy an EC2 environment in the same data center that your S3 resides. So you'll notice I said it's your S3. We don't provide S3 with our solution. All we do is provision and manage compute EC2 on your behalf, and it goes against all of the data that resides in your S3. So whether it's weeks, months, or years worth of data, we can make that data searchable and provide analytics on it. This is a simplified view of the data access platform. It's essentially, we've got data sources on the left, and today we're going to focus on log data, but in reality, you can have marketing data, IoT data, or any other type of data, and get that into a S3 via many of the transfer mechanisms that are on the market. We see most of our customers today either using Logstash, Kafka, or FluentD. So we stream the data into S3. ChaosSearch makes that data discoverable, and we also index that data and put the indices back into S3 to make it searchable. We provide a full stack to our customers, and today the user interface for our customers is Kibana. So many of the DevOps and SecOps people that we speak to are very familiar with Kibana being an open source visualization tool. So they're right away out of the box, they're very fluent in terms of using ChaosSearch. Before we get into the demo, I just want to highlight a customer case study. It's a Boston-based Saas company that we've been working with for a number of months now, but it's a good example of the Cloudflare demonstration that Kevin will be showing you. Basically, what they were wrestling with is, as I mentioned earlier, managing an ELK environment for their customers. They had 3 dedicated full-time engineers doing nothing but keeping the ELK cluster up and running, and it was falling down on a weekly basis. So we say that the Elasticsearch environment was extremely fragile, and they were also spending, it says 150, but they were spending $120,000 per month with AWS to manage 10 terabytes of CDN log data with Cloudflare, and they were only getting 7 days retention from that. So they were wrestling with trying to reduce their cost, trying to move from managing an ELK stack or an Elasticsearch stack, as well as looking for a vendor that can provide them a managed service. So we worked with them for over a number of months, and finally they selected us, and they've implemented us as a solution, which we have provided them that managed SaaS. They actually have just a half-time engineer managing the S3 storage environment for them, and they've significantly reduced their costs from $120,000 a month down to $50,000 per month. And we've increased that data retention from 7 days to 90 days of data retention. And it's all within the exact same Cloudflare CDN data. And the data daily ingestion remains the same as well, which is pretty significant of 10 terabytes per day. And I'm going to hand it over to Kevin right now, and he's going to talk a little bit about, getting Cloudflare into S3.
Yeah, one of the benefits of Cloudflare is they have this really good tool that they've created to push logs directly from their platform into S3. So these next few slides will kind of walk through the actual setup of that. So really all you have to do is you define the bucket path as well as the region that bucket is located in, and then you create an IAM role directly in AWS that allows that platform, Cloudflare, to write to that S3 bucket. Once that's been set up and configured, from there, Cloudflare will actually drop a ownership token file directly into the S3 bucket that you've defined. Once you grab that token, you'll go ahead and drop that into this text field here, and then that'll essentially secure access and verify that that S3 bucket is in your ownership, and it's actually the bucket that those logs would be pushed directly to. From there, you can define the specific fields that Cloudflare makes available that you want to have as a part of those log files. So you can get as granular as every single field, or you can select only fields that are relevant to your business and to your use case. With our customers, we're seeing them select all fields because as ChaosSearch indexes all of that data, we take the approach of indexing every field. So that way they have a full slice of the pie to understand what's going on, what issues their customers might be running into for all the different sites that Cloudflare is monitoring for them. And with that, we'll jump directly into the demonstration and start analyzing some of our Cloudflare logs. So here in the ChaosSearch platform, as you can see, we have a number of S3 buckets listed over here on the left-hand side. And the way that ChaosSearch gets set up and deployed for our customers is by creating an IAM role and a policy for that role. And that allows us the read-write capabilities, as Tom had mentioned, where we have the ability to index your data and then write that indice directly back into your S3 bucket, so that way you're in control of your data at all times. Nothing is stored locally within ChaosSearch, and nothing is stored within the service itself. It's simply processing all of that data during the indexing time, and then servicing all of the searches being executed directly through our Kibana interface. These little indents here and filters on this left-hand side, these are our object groups. And object groups for ChaosSearch are really virtual filters on like formats and data sources, where we can go ahead and start indexing and then making those object groups available as indices to search against in our analytics section. And the process of creating an object group is extremely simple. Simply click Create Object Group. From here, we can go ahead and work with our Cloudflare data set. We have some from 2020 already that we created for this demo specifically. So here in this prefix filter, as you can see, I can search just on the top level file or filter, but I can also get as granular as I would like on specific days as well as files themselves. If you don't have this type of directory set up for prefixes in S3, that's certainly fine. There's a number of different ways that you can group these sources together. One being this regex filter, where you can search and group files based off the file name. And the other way is by using our object filter. And the object filter is the most common approach is this tagging option. So a lot of our customers that have microservice applications or different setups and ways that they're storing data in S3, this becomes extremely valuable for them, again, if they don't have this prefix setup, to group like objects together and then start that indexing process. So once I've set my filters, from here, the system will immediately identify the specific format that we're working with. Currently, we support CSV, log, and JSON. The system will also identify whether or not these objects are compressed or uncompressed. In the event that you're compressing and sending your logs to S3, there's no need to manually go in and make any modifications. During the indexing process, the system will uncompress those objects, index it, and then recompress them and keep them stored in that same S3 bucket. And then in the event that you have arrays or nested arrays within your JSON formats that you're indexing with ChaosSearch, you also have the ability to define the flattening depth. And this is extremely popular for our customers that are looking to make use of many of the fields that are in those arrays, where the system will go ahead and break those out into their own separate fields, associate the values and the types for those fields without any manual intervention or effort on the engineer side to break that information out. So once we've done that, we can create this object group. We can give it a name. And then we can also set up our live indexing process. So live indexing for ChaosSearch at this point is anytime an object is put into S3, the system will send it, or S3 will send a notification to an AWS SQS queue that ChaosSearch will have rights to read from. And from there, we'll be able to index those objects as they're being put into S3 on a continuous basis. And then that way we have that logging pipeline of new data always coming in and available to search and build visualizations against whenever it's needed. From there, we can also build and define a retention policy. So these retention policies allow you to keep data stored for as long as you would like, and also ensure that you're staying within any certain compliance or standards that you have in place within your own internal security policies. So here, anytime we have a daily index outside of this time period that we define, the system will automatically rotate out that old index and continuously do that on a daily basis for that time period that you define, always ensuring you're in compliance with those security standards that you have, as well as, again, taking a lot of that manual effort and work off of the engineer's plate. So once we go ahead and create this object group in the final step, we can start that indexing process, and then from there, we'll go ahead and start indexing all of those fields for you. Again, building those mappings in the index structure, assigning all of the fields, the appropriate type to those fields, and then on a continuous basis, adding any new dynamic fields that might be being added in to your objects or log files as they're being shipped directly to S3. Now, here in this group content section, should anything ever change, we do have the ability to update our retention policy and make modifications. So if something were to change down the road, or for that specific group of logs or data source that we're working with, you'll always have the ability to modify that, and again, stay within the security and compliance policies that you all put in place. From there, as this data set continues to index, we have the opportunity to move directly into the analytics section again, which is our Kibana interface, where we can start searching and building visualizations and alerts on that data. We also have the ability to go directly into the refinery. And the refinery is unique to ChaosSearch because it allows you to do transformations on the schema without having to re-index that data set, as well as not having to build out those many ETL processes or glue scripts to do transformations on the data. That can all be done directly in the application for ChaosSearch without the need to re-index any of that data. And that becomes extremely important at scale, where we're doing hundreds of gigabytes, if not terabytes per day. The system also allows you to go ahead and stitch or join independent object groups back together. So if you want to have full visibility into one index, you can go ahead and select the specific object groups that we create on that storage section. And again, this will build that index for you, where you'll then search against directly in Kibana. For this purpose, we'll just work with the data set we just created. Here, again, we have that ability to go ahead and transform any of these specific fields. So if I go ahead and select this client request host, that'll bring up this transformation opportunity where I can go ahead and add in a specific regex. This is either in our documentation page, or you can work with my team or our customer success team to build these out for you, and again, take a lot of that work off of the user's plate. So for this example here, where we have these client request hosts, if we want to break these out into two separate fields and understand that the first part of this host name is going to be our customer, and the rest is just going to be the actual host itself, just as an example. I know that's how we set up our customers, where we have the specific customer name and then some information after that. So here we can immediately identify which customer it is that might be experiencing issues. We can save this transformation and then start building visualizations and searching against that data with its own unique field, instead of having to do either wildcard searches or some type of, again, ETL process to extract that information out and then load it back into some type of platform and re-index. That can all, again, be done directly in the application. And then we can continue to transform any additional fields that we see that might be of interest to us. And then the last step is the ability to go ahead and define the time period and associate that time value for our Kibana interface to start searching against and have a histogram available for those different dates. So because I transformed that specific field, I'll go ahead and give this a new name, and we'll call this our Cloudflare transformed view. And then now I can move into the analytics section and start searching on that data. So the version of Kibana that we're running with is through the Open Distro open source project. We're on the latest version of their Kibana, which is 7.4.2. We've also gone ahead and added some additional features and enhancements to this Kibana interface. We do have the ability to create alerts, dashboards, and any visualizations. But here in this Discover section, you'll find that this Kibana is very similar to probably the Kibana that you're working with today. So if I go ahead and work with that specific index that we just created, we can click on that, load that in, and then from there we can search over the time period that we've defined. And for this one, where we created them on the 6th, we can pull up the last 7 days, we can drill into it and focus on that specific time period that we're working with. We'll have the ability to drill into the specific documents. And again, we can see that we have that original client request host that we were working with, and then those new fields that we created, which is the customer as well as the host. So now we can add filters into Kibana and search on that specific customer over that time period. We can see if there are any trends for the data that we're searching on. If there's a specific path or status that we're looking to focus on any issues. We can add that information directly into the search syntax, query that data and see if there are any trends from there. And then we can also, on the left-hand side, drill into any of those specific fields, the values associated with those fields, and then either add those into the document section here and filter on, or we can start building different visualizations against that data. A number of the visualizations that we have for Cloudflare have already been built out. So here in this visualize section, certainly with us being focused primarily on AWS, we have a number of those AWS visualizations already created. But here, if I wanted to look at one of my Cloudflare visualizations, I can click on that. I can search over that specific time period. So here, if I bring up from January to April, and I want to look at all of the cache statuses for that time period, that'll pop up in my pie chart, and then I'll be able to immediately visualize and see what's going on from a cache status perspective. I can go ahead and share this to any other members of my team or anybody in our customer success team that might have customers reaching out because of certain issues. And then I can also inspect this request, export it, download it as a CSV, and then do additional transformations and visualizations on that, or again, share it with any of the relevant folks. And then certainly we can take all of this and we can start building different alerts on that data as well. So one of the common ones that we have is going and looking at different status codes. So here in our alerting, the approach to create alerts is to define a monitor, and then within that monitor, we'll have many different triggers. So in this example, if I want to look at all of my edge response statuses, I can define that as the monitor name. I can choose between a visualization graph or an extraction query. The more common one for us is to use that extraction query. I can bring up that specific index that we were recently working with, and then I can go ahead and execute this run sample and then have all the available fields within that index data set and then search against different data that's in here. So if I want to look at all of my edge response statuses that are 404, I can update this extraction query to be that specific information. I can define the interval period to run these checks every minute, every hour, or every day. Once I go ahead and create that, then here's where we'll define that actual trigger. So for this one, we'll say any 404 status, we want to have a notification created. We want to define this severity as a severity 2. And then I can also define the specific channel that I want these notifications to go in. So for here, if I want this to be my Cloudflare Slack action, I can define Slack as my destination. I can give this a specific message of Cloudflare 404. I can update the message content and add any additional information in here that's going to be actionable for the engineer that's receiving these alerts. I can see a formatted preview of what those alerts will look like when I receive that notification in Slack. And I can also send a test message to ensure that that destination has been configured correctly. Once I go ahead and create this, we'll have our specific monitor with that name, as well as its defined trigger. And once I go ahead and refresh this, we'll have a new alert that's come through, and then we should have that notification directly in our Slack channel that we've defined. And here we can see exactly that. So in my Slack channel for rebuilding search, I now have that Cloudflare notification for those 404 statuses on those edge responses, and I can immediately start taking action directly in the application itself. I can acknowledge this alert, put it into an acknowledged state, and then continues to take any additional actions against that, update whatever issues might be going on, and then communicate proactively with our customer success team as well as our customers on any issues that might be going on. And then from there, I know a lot of our customers like to take all of that information and put them into specific dashboards. And again, we have a number of these dashboards already built out through those visualizations that we've created. So here in my Cloudflare dashboard, I'll be able to have the ability to follow across all of those different sources and fields that are most important to us on what the cache status is, the number of edge status responses that are anything except a 200. And then from there, I can also see the number of cache bytes, and most importantly, traffic over time. So I'll give this a second to load here. And then directly, again, against S3, without having to manage any additional infrastructure or hardware, we'll have all this information available to us and present to start seeing what's going on, again, proactively respond to any alerts or issues that might arise, as opposed to taking a reactionary approach when customers are reaching out. Now, on top of that, we have this concept of a management dashboard as well. So we also have the ability and give the ability to our customers to monitor and see exactly how our system is performing. And this provides a lot of great insight on the number of indexes within the platform, the total amount of data that's been indexed, number of queries that have been executed, as well as the average query duration. We can also see the specific indexes themselves, and then we can also monitor the specific queries being executed on those indexes and by which user. And here, because I'm on the main account, I'm defined as that root user. Now, users, as far as authentication and sign up, we do offer username and password, but more importantly, we do have single sign-on capabilities through any of the identity providers that you all are working with today. Certainly the more popular ones like Okta, OneLogin, Azure Active Directory, and Google. So we'll be able to support those as well to continuously enhance security for authentication for those different users. So we do have a few minutes left. So Tom and I will open it up to any questions that might have gone on during the webinar. But again, thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope you found this specific use case to be valuable and understand how our customers are using the platform to analyze their specific Cloudflare log data set that they're working with. So one question that we have is, ChaosSearch API compatible with Kibana as an Elasticsearch source? In this way, would it also work with a Graylog frontend as the querying interface? So the ChaosSearch APIs, they're Elastic compatible. Essentially, what you would do is utilize our endpoint and then the same exact query that are structured within Kibana today to service those API requests. We do not support Graylog as a front end. Currently, it would be Kibana as the user interface. And then later on down the road this year in our roadmap, we'll be supporting a SQL interface as well. Graylog is not one of the ones that we get requests for often.
Thanks, Kevin. There's another question that just came in. You mentioned in your example this Boston-based company doing 10 terabytes of daily ingestion. And the question is there a limit to the amount of data that you can ingest? The answer to that is actually no. I mean, we do very, very well at high volumes of log data. We've got some customers right now that are doing up to 25 terabytes per day. So the beauty of that is that when you index that amount of data, the indices that we put back into S3 are significantly less than the raw data. So we, just as an example, 1 terabyte worth of raw data, after we index it and put the index back, it's compressed, and that compression usually shows up at about 200 gigs. So most of our customers realize significant savings on this storage by using ChaosSearch. But to answer the question specifically, no, there is no limit to the amount of data that we can use on a daily basis of ingestion.
One question that just came through is around scriptability, where they would like to generate dashboards, filters, and alerts via the API, and wondering if that's possible as part of their infrastructure as code. That is, so you have the ability, everything that we just walked through in the UI, you have the ability to configure or codify through our API. So the whole creating an object group, defining the filter, the retention policy, and starting the indexing process, as well as doing transformations in the refinery, and then certainly to this specific question, to generate dashboards and filters and alerts directly through our API. So that would be available within the platform itself.
Another question just came in. How do you price ChaosSearch? It's basically priced on the amount of daily data ingestion. So that there's no retention component to it, unlike other vendors in this marketplace, because our retention policy is basically unlimited. You get the data into S3 and you can store it in S3 and make it searchable for weeks, months, or years. So it's basically based on the amount of daily data ingestion. And just as a rule of thumb, for 1 terabyte of daily data ingestion, the monthly fee for that would be $20,000 per month. And I'm proud to say that the company has worked really hard over the past couple of months to publish or put a new website up and running. I would recommend everyone go to chaossearch.io and take a look at the content that we have up on the website. And there's a whole section on pricing that actually does some comparison pricing versus us and the other vendors in the log analytics space.
And then one other question that we've received is around the deployment. So trying to understand what account or who owns the EC2 infrastructure, and how does that actually speak to or communicate with the S3 bucket that the customer owns. So the way that that's done is, as Tom had mentioned at the beginning, we deploy our EC2 infrastructure that we own in the same exact region that that S3 bucket is located. From there, our customers create an IAM role and policy. And through that IAM role and policy, there's a trust relationship that's created for cross-account access, where we have read-write capability into that specific S3 bucket that you have defined. So there wouldn't be any EC2 instances launched directly in the VPC that our customers own, or any additional work that's needed from the customer side. It's really just creating that IAM role and policy to enable that trust relationship for us to access the files within that S3 bucket, as well as index and write that indice back into the customer's S3 environment. And then the last question that we'll take is, how long would it take the log from CloudWatch logs to appear on ChaosSearch? So that would depend on how frequently CloudWatch is shipping logs to S3. That would depend on what the latency is. From the current setup that we have, where S3 sends a notification to an AWS SQS queue, ChaosSearch indexes it and then makes that information available for search. That latency right now is around 60 to 90 seconds, but we are coming out with a real-time component. So as data is being indexed, it is available for search immediately, or in that near real-time experience. So I hope that answers that question as well. So one of the things that we wanted to mention was this ChaosSearch stimulus program. So I'll hand it back over to Tom O'Connell to handle this, and then we'll wrap everything up.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. So I hope everyone found that demonstration valuable. I mean, today we focused on Cloudflare logs and doing search and analytics on Cloudflare, but essentially, any type of log or log capability today, we can do search, whether it be, Fastly, Cloudflare, Akamai, CloudWatch, CloudTrail. I mean, get those into S3 and we can make those searchable. And we also understand the trying times and difficult times that a lot of our customers are going through. So what we did was we came up with a program to help to try and address some of those issues around, revenue impacts and budget impacts that many of our customers are seeing, and we're talking to our customers on a daily basis, and they're telling us about. So through the remainder of Q2, which we just started, ChaosSearch is going to offer a 15-month agreement for the price of 12 months. So essentially, you get 3 months free. And we're also going to offer, which typically companies don't do that, a complete risk-free 30-day cancellation term if you at any point in time during that 30-day period do not think that ChaosSearch is a suitable solution for what you're trying to do. So it's 15 months of the ChaosSearch service for the price of 12, with a no issues, not even a specific reason on why you want to cancel. Just let us know via email that you don't think it's a suitable program for you or technology for you, and we'll go ahead and cancel your subscription. Go to chaossearch.com for more information on that, and we can contact you in terms of getting into the program and what the process actually looks like. But with that actually concludes the webinar. We hope you found it valuable and useful. I mentioned a little earlier that we do have a new website that just was up today. So hopefully you'll visit that and see some of the useful content that we published. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.